back. And I gotta reset that. That's it. We came in under time last time. Amazing.
Unreasonable.
A little bit. Don't burn yourself. Don't burn yourself. I need you to survive for 30 more minutes.
And then it's up to you.
And then yeah. Whatever happens after that, it's out of my control. You're no longer in my care. Heather gets you back for whatever that's worth. Hey everybody, welcome to the Inside Tabletop. It's 2025 when you're watching this. And as the last 3 of these have, gotten darker in tone over and over again, I thought we would put our prescient caps on and have kind of a more fun one for the beginning of the year where we make our predictions for 2025.
Yeah, these are always fun videos.
I love doing this. Yeah. I love my 2025 prediction videos. Mostly because, one, I love being right so much.
No, I never knew that
Chris,
about you.
I love being right so much.
About you.
It's and my oppositional defiant disorder wants me to be right before everybody else. Like talking about how Games Workshop's trying to become a brand management company. Weird how that came
so how
true.
come you're not just in a pool of water making prescient guesses for a computer?
They haven't kidnapped me yet. They haven't kidnapped me yet. Whenever the gaming industry figures out how to monetize me, that's when they kidnap me and just have me writing Shakespeare on a typewriter like the monkey I am. But I thought this would be fun to do because 2025, we're in a weird interim year for the mainstream hobbies games. And as you are a retailer, this is something that you and I like to think about because this is how you have to plan your year. Think about that. You have to plan your year by guessing what companies are going to do and in what month they're going to do them to try and forecast your budget.
Well, if Games Workshop mentions this phenomenon in their shareholders report, which they talk about how there's off years and on years essentially. Right?
Yeah.
And how they have to shore up their stuff. Obviously we have to think the same way as well. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And so we're going to divide this video into 2 parts. First, the Games Workshop half, because we'll just get out of the way. And then the non-Games Workshop half and what we think is coming in 2025 and see if we're right. Maybe we can check these off as we go. We use this like the GMG bingo. The GMG Loads of War bingo. How close do we get as to what's coming out this year?
What part do we talk about Trench Crusade?
Yeah, that's right. When do we talk about Trench Crusade? We'll talk about it delivering maybe. Okay. Well, there's at least one thing happening in March. We've already seen announced that we'll see how that goes. But first thing, it's 2025, which means we're 3 years out from Horus Sery launch.
Right.
Do you think we get a new Horus Sery 2-player starter set?
Yes. I think so.
I think so too.
I think it's their clear third game.
Yep.
It's big. It just gets bigger.
And it's 40K adjacent. Right, which means that it gets that shine on it from being 40K adjacent, and they've done a ton of plastics to build up for it.
And shockingly, they need so many more still. That's the thing. That's where it makes.
But they have 4 primary factions now. They have
do.
AdMech in plastic. They have Solar Auxilia in plastic. They have Marines in plastic and Chaos variants. Right. Yeah, so that's 4 factions basically for your game.
Yeah.
So what do you think that's going to be?
Yeah, that's the $1 billion question.
Do they wheel it back to the beginning now that it's all done? Because the last box set was effectively the Siege of the Emperor's Palace box set. The trailer had Horus and the Titans and the Luna Wolves and the Imperial Fists on the walls or on the ground basically in
So the question is, do you crank it all the way to 1 minute to midnight kind of thing and be like, hey, we're gonna have some plastic custodes in there with some Trader Space
with
Marines
the friggin' Emperor miniature?
Some heresy. No, I don't know. I didn't say that.
Make an Emperor miniature?
I strongly believe, and maybe I'm crazy here. I've kind of thought this for a while now. And I always go back to this. I'm like, look, if they can make plastic Escher upgrades as a box set, you can't look me in the eye and tell me they're not going to make plastic Primarchs.
No,
Horus Heresy.
No, they have to.
That has to be.
They have to. They'd sell 1 million of them just to painters. There's no reason not to. They'll sell 100 million of them just to painters.
Exactly.
They have made plastic Primarchs for 40K.
Exactly. For the
Chaos.
game that's not even really 4.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And they sell nuts. It's bonkers. Yeah.
Well, didn't you say, I think Jay said this in one of your videos, that Lionel Johnson was the miniature of the year for last year, for 2023. You've sold more of that. That was the most in-demand 40K miniature probably of the last 10 years. Because it was an incredible miniature.
People just want to paint it.
People just wanted to paint it. Yeah. And it was great in game. And it was just cool. You had this incredibly cool looking Primarch miniature.
Absolutely.
Mutton chop, what should we call it, Lionel? What was his name? Is the
Tywin Lannister.
Vance? What's his name? Robert Vance, whatever his name is. Something I played Tywin Lannister.
Yeah, looked like him.
John
cool.
Vance.
Very cool. So like for me, I'm like, that's got to be a component of it, like pushing the plastic even further, and in a way that like I don't think goes into the weeds really. Like, can
I go into the weeds though and say what my bet is?
Okay, with Horus Heresy.
Yeah.
Okay.
They don't do Horus Heresy again. They do a 2-player starter set for Horus Heresy Kill Team.
Oh my god.
They subdivide it.
Oh my.
Think about this for a second. Wow. Hear me out.
You're galaxy braining too much.
Hear me out. Hear me out. Hear me out. Hear me out. You do small action Horus Heresy, and you do a Horus Heresy version of Kill Team, and that way your components can cross. Like you don't have to remake all your components, both sides, but you can make these cool bespoke, and that's how you do all the characters from the books. Is you make a Kill Team based around a character. I
can't say that I'm not very interested in that idea.
Right? But you do them like you do Underworld's box sets, and you have like little 4 or 5 man bespoke kill teams, and you make it and that's how you do all your character models without having to have them be in blister packs. You box them all together, you have it be a story, and you make it a kill team, and you just throw it into the Kill Team universe. You don't need a starter set. You just use the standard Kill Team starter set and Kill Team rules. You just make it its own side game where it's Kill Team set in 30K.
Interesting.
That's how I think they do it.
Do you think that they would go this year into like faction specific stuff for Horus Heresy, or do you think that's still too early? Like
I think it's still
like
too early.
Elite Terminator units.
I think it's still too early.
Things like Galvor back and stuff. Like they
don't sell enough. Yeah. The plastics sell better.
Yeah.
Make plastics. Let people convert things. You already said it. You make Escher conversion sprues.
Yeah,
that's all you do. You just make that for all the faction specific stuff. You make a cool conversion frame and be done with it. Mm-hmm. It'll last forever. You can tool off as many as you want when you need them, and then be done.
I mean, that would be cool if they did. Like,
it's a longer, harder process for them. Like. Literally, that stuff exists right now for the traditional sculptors left at the studio to have something to do. I think, like it's like a retirement farm for putty pushers, and I love those people.
And
I want them to still have jobs,
revenue too.
Yeah, and it just stays the scale it needs to be. And I think if they push too far into that mass production thing, those guys all lose their jobs and go away, and it stops being what it is.
Yeah.
Second thing, we're also in the timeline for a new Warcry 2-player starter set. Like that's coming next year too. And I think it's going to be Cities of Sigmar. I think we're going to see our Warcry Mordheim this time around.
Okay.
I think they've figured out that they can't get us to buy the weird shit. Mm-hmm. They need it to be D&D adjacent. They need to be Mordheim adjacent. If you look at that Cities of Sigmar release and how fucking cool and weird all the characters are, and you look at all the like lost cursed city miniatures that came out, like the father-daughter witch hunter combo like all of that stuff. Cool. You could make a super cool Streets of Hammerhall like Mordheim box and just use the Warcry rules, because the Warcry rules are great. And the problem is that everything's so weird that goes into it. You said this when we talked about brand. You need a character POV. You have to start at the human character POV, and then you can add weird stuff to it, but it has to start there. And I think Warcry's never stuck because no one wants to be the cannibal monsters, the people that cut their faces off. You know what I mean? That's where they led with. You can be the bird people that walk on stilts, or the cannibals that cut their faces off and amputate their own limbs for sword
they've
arms.
moved away from that with like just like putting out just faction units.
It just became mini. It just became
mini AOS, right?
It just became they tried to copy and paste the Kill Team method.
Yeah,
which is release a unit box through this.
But then brand, now Warcry just has like an identity crisis, essentially.
It doesn't know what the fuck it's supposed to be.
What is this even?
Is it just tiny? And Spearhead's has eaten its homework of being tiny Warhammer instead. It has no identity. Right. So I think we see a new Warcry box, and I think it rebrands Warcry into something that looks very different from what Warcry looks like today. Here's my third one, and this is my thing that I think I'm most excited about. A new Warhammer Quest. We're due a Warhammer Quest.
Is like
2021 was Crusade City.
30 years anniversary.
It's the 30-year anniversary of Warhammer
this year
Quest.
Coming up. Yeah.
Quest 95, baby.
That would be pretty cool. And my hope there would be that it is not just a one-off project. Like, as cool as those can be, I'd love to see, like, with all the success HeroQuest has had, and all the expansions they've been putting out on a regular basis. Yeah, Ash is standing for it hard. It's a very cool product. It'd be nice to see Warhammer have like a board game like that they like regularly added to.
Yeah.
Again, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I was just talking about this last week on our show. Is like, where have all the great Games Workshop board games gone? Like, they don't even try to make them anymore, really, which is kind of sad because they have such great properties.
Well, I think this is them learning the lesson of sometimes you got to leave it for 5 years. Could you imagine a Space Hulk?
Now,
like a 2025 Space Hulk? Yeah. You make Space Hulk today. You could make such a cool version of Space Hulk. You could do modern board game design for it. You could do modern board game miniatures. And the 2009 Space Hulk is phenomenal.
It's a great product.
It's a great product. Yeah. But you could make Space Hulk with future expansion, future proofing built in. That by itself be amazing. Right? You didn't. But I would like to see a Warhammer Quest based on AOS again. But they'll probably do a 40K one because the last one was AOS.
You don't think they should do an old based on the old world?
I think they should.
They're not going to. They're not going to, though.
I don't think they will.
That would be
phenomenal. That would be phenomenal. If they just rewrote Quest 97 with modern mechanics, or 95 with modern mechanics, that would be insane. And maybe they could. The problem is that they'd have to. Most of the card scan for that, like the original artwork, is all gone. It got destroyed, so they'd have to like repro it somehow. But they reproed these books. Like, these are originals. They sell them at Warhammer World, They sell these at Warhammer World, like with just scans the original and Rogue Trader. So there's no way they couldn't do it. And then the last thing is, I think they wrap up Lord of the Rings with some kind of box set for Regiments of Renown, because I think if that's their fourth pillar product, they want something like Kill Team and Spearhead for Lord of the Rings, and they don't have it right now. They just have their same game they've released.
I'm really cynical. I don't think like they want to
touch it.
Look at it. Like, I think it's like this.
They're just all done.
Just like,
you know why? Because it's the only thing they pay for, and their brand is bigger now.
I know
their brand is bigger. I got a really sad picture from Joe McCullough sitting in the War of the Rohirrim Theater in IMAX by himself to watch a movie by himself.
That's insane. Did he say if it was any good or not?
Because he loved it.
Oh,
it was good.
Yeah, it probably is really good. Yeah.
I mean, they're converting 3 pages of Tolkien's text into a movie, so there's a lot of license and like creativity. And he said the animation was up and down. Like some scenes were better than others. Yeah. He said the voice acting, the VO was great, and like the story was fine, and had a great set of protagonists. And the created imagined bits were all great. Like he was like, I got no notes.
Yeah.
It's a cool Tolkien story. Cool. But he also said, like, I don't know who this is for.
Yeah.
Because this is for me, and I'm by myself in this theater, so I don't know who else this is for apart from just like upgrading your license. So who knows? That's my other bet. Let's talk about non-GW. We got 3 games that we wanted to talk about. Let's talk about your prediction for Asmodee for this year. Do you think this is going to happen?
I think they're in a bit of a crisis, personally.
Okay.
Just from like what I've seen in terms of like our shop and like how we're like interacting with the products, a lot of other shops in our areas. I think their big plan for this next year is to kind of re-release Legion in a way and like kind of bring it back into the focus again, because it's kind of been a neglected property of theirs.
It was effectively dead.
Well, they like stopped releasing stuff like for like almost a year.
They just overrode it with Shatterpoint, and they assumed everyone was going to play Shatterpoint. And how's Shatterpoint going?
And that did not go the way that they planned. And then this year they also basically officially retired X-Wing and Armada and some of those other games, right?
Yeah.
So
officially retiring X-Wing is crazy to me.
It is insane when you think about how huge it was.
You know what I mean? Like that to me. The amount of people playing X-Wing, I can understand Armada because it just never really kicked off, but X-Wing that's like retiring Magic.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. Like after like they just can't keep it going forever. It's like being like, I guess it's just time to say goodbye to Dungeons and Dragons. Like X-Wing was a huge thing for the miniature wargaming market because it was such a wide on-ramp and it had so many non-tabletop gamers playing tabletop. And it wasn't because it was the best game. And yes, it got bloated and it fell apart towards the end and it was just too big. But like when it first came out, man, I Yeah, I cannot overstate what a huge deal it was. To the fact where I had to break up people playing at Games Workshop.
I was just saying, like that was basically putting it that way, right? Like we're all at a Games Workshop conference or whatever, and we're literally breaking out X-Wing to play in between meetings or whatever.
And I was like, guys, just do that. I can't see you.
Guys, the execs are like, are you kidding me?
No, I fought for it. I actually fought for it where I was like, it's fine that they're doing it because they need to be able to answer questions. Like I need these guys to also understand what this is because people are coming in their stores and ask them about X-Wing.
Sure.
So have an understanding of it. That's completely fine. And like, if you want to have a conversation with them about it, have a conversation with how are you going to use this to explain that you understand what this industry is to the customers that come in.
Yep.
And not get defensive and blow them apart, but be like, hey, want to buy some paints to repaint your squadron so you can tell them apart? Because you have the same X-Wing 9 times.
Yep.
Let's grab some paints and you can touch these things up. Like there's 2 ways of running at that thing.
Yeah, them going. Yeah, that's crazy.
How do you think it's going to go with them getting Legion back if they do a new Legion box set, new Legion?
My big concern there is the brand itself, Star Wars, is not super strong right now.
Not until new Andor comes out. Right. Give me a new Andor. Although Skeleton Crew's pretty good. My kids are enjoying it. I heard it's pretty fun. Yeah, my kids are enjoying it.
And I think more importantly, though, is the consumer confidence of those that consume Atomic Mass games.
I think that's going to be the problem. Won't be the game or even the IP. It'll be their confidence in the brand manager.
It's like you're asking me to buy another Star Wars game.
Yeah,
you've messed around with this one a bunch and not like really loved it. You've wanted me to buy other ones that have either are still going but are not doing great, or you've basically like not supported anymore. Why is it going to be different this time, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Like I don't know that they have a compelling answer to that.
And that means you don't have a compelling answer to that. Because that's the interesting thing is when we talk about this in the previous 3 videos, is the space between buying something or not buying something is your confidence in, is that money a good investment or not? And unfortunately, with Legion in particular, Atomic Mass has been pushing that gap wider. It's a further jump for people to make. And there's less reasons for you to tell people to make that jump if you don't understand what it is yourself.
And this is a fascinating part of like the business where it's this like black hole almost for companies that make things that like this area that they just don't, or fog of war or whatever you want to say, like the retail space, because like they don't really engage with us.
Yeah.
There's no conversations happening. They just drop the sales receipts and distributors. And quite frankly, the distributors don't engage with us very much.
Yeah.
They're just selling to us, right?
Well, it's another thing on their SKU
It's
list.
a one-way conversation essentially.
Yeah,
and quite frankly, they don't care if we buy that or the palette of Magic cards. Like, as long as they're getting, their money, like, who cares, right? So they don't know that customers, part of like a customer's behavior, which is very fascinating, is like people are like, when they get into new games, especially non-Games Workshop games, are like, one of their biggest questions is like, does anyone play this? Who's playing this? Do people play it here?
Can I see people
how
playing
many
this?
People play it here? Like all these like really specific questions. And like you said before, what they're really asking is like, is it okay that I buy this? Like, am I making a stupid decision here?
Is this a stupid choice?
Like, can you validate this for me, please? Yeah. Like, which is completely understandable, right? And I just find it's very fascinating how interested customers are in how well a game is doing, right? Like I get all the time people will ask me that in the store. Even
that's what everybody talks about. That's the reason Trench Crusade is all the Trench Crusade.
Wow.
Get the SEO going. Get the SEO going. When you crusade in the trenches, you have to trench the crusade. But that's the reason why people talk about it so much, because they want to be on a winning team. They see a $3 million Kickstarter
100%.
And it has to be the next thing that takes down corporate America, right? Or takes down corporate
And it's
UK.
why they're like, Chris, like, what, are you going to sell this in the store? And like, why can't you sell it in the store? And like, what they're really asking is like, I kind of like this. I want it to be cool. I want people to play it. And I know that like, there's an important component there to like validating my experience, which is like the retail space, because I like to be in that or whatever. I like to be part of that community and stuff like that, right? So it's a weird thing, but like that's just how it is, right? Like it's and I'm always like, man, like I would have no problem if a company called me up and wanted to chat for 15 minutes once in a while. Like they just kind of leave it on the table though. Like, it's just something that's there, right?
What do you think is going to happen so for the first time in a year, because we didn't get one last year, we're getting 2 Marvel movies. We're getting Thunderbolts and we're getting Captain America Brave New World, which are basically tied together.
Yep.
It's one's about Thunderbolt Ross becoming the Red Hulk, and he's the guy who is the guy who Thunderbolts is named after, basically, right? So you've got this thing where we might have a good Marvel movie this summer. And they have the Marvel property. Do you think they do a starter set for it? Do you think there's any plans in the works for this? They do seem to have more than any other property they own lined up the Marvel property with the movie releases.
They do pretty well.
Right? Like they had all the Spider Friends out for the second Spider-Verse movie. Yep. They have this like the X-Men 97. They had a whole bunch of X-Men releases. Yep. They seem to have this stuff lined up. Do you think we get a new Crisis Protocol 2-player starter set this year?
No.
Really?
I don't think so.
I think we might.
You think so?
I think we get a new starter set. I think they might pull the price down.
That needs to happen.
I think they might pull the price down on the 2-player starter set, and it would come with Thunderbolts and Red Hulk and a bunch of like baddies, rando baddies, or Sentry. Because Sentry is an insane character to have in a Marvel movie. I don't know if you guys know anything about Sentry. He's Marvel's Superman, but he's insane. He's schizophrenic Superman. So the Void, which gives him his power, also makes him basically evil. And he has to he has to basically control how much power he uses, but he has unlimited power. He's an unlimited powered superhero, and the only way he's controlled is by controlling the Void. So like, he's an insane character just to have with the Thunderbolts, because they're all basically, they're not even metahumans. They're just like super soldier serum guys with an actual god. So in like Justice League terms, everyone's Batman except for one person who's Superman, but like 10 Supermans.
It's funny. Like Jay has this unique perspective because he doesn't care at all about superheroes.
No, he doesn't. Yeah.
He it's like nothing to him or whatever. But he seems to understand it better than anybody I talk to, including myself.
Because he can be objective about it.
Yeah, 100%. And he's always just like, man, I can't understand why they're not releasing their products as like these, like all their waves of things should be like these little comic panel things of like, these guys are fighting these guys. It's a splash release. Yeah. It's its own self-contained little
You can cut the SKUs down, you can keep the cost down.
And later on you can pair it up and do it if you want to. But like, he's like, how are they not like leaning into this? And I'm like, Jay, I don't know. I don't know.
I don't have a good answer.
I don't have a good answer for
I think we see something for the summer movie releases. Because we're going to get 2 summer Marvel movies, one at the beginning, one at the end. I think for Christmas we see a starter set.
I think for them, like the guys that make that, they're obviously really talented. The game is fantastic.
It is the best superhero game.
Freaking good.
It is the best superhero game.
Every time I play it, I'm like, this is so much fun. My head doesn't hurt. I had a great time. They're so game focused sometimes.
Sure, it's the private press of it all.
Yeah,
it's their history, it's their background.
They can sometimes forget that they're like putting out like physical products that people like love to collect,
and it can just be fun.
Sometimes they can.
Yeah, it's a problem I think with being a bit too online. Is if you listen too much online, the number one thing that people talk about is their experience, and their experience always comes down to, did I win or lose a game? And those spheres of conversation are always louder than, did I have fun painting this miniature? What's the background? Like, if for some reason you could get like a Facebook group that just talks about the stories of comics or movies to also show pictures of miniatures in it, then you would have like the best place for those designers to go and talk.
I know. I mean, the thing about Marvel specifically, it's like, why would you want the main selling feature of the kits you're making to be the rules they have? When you think about it, right? Like you're literally making little cool
You're literally paying for the image
of miniatures. Like you're paying for the image. It's a premium branded thing. Like you want everyone to care about the figure they got, be excited that they got a Wolverine. Be excited.
The rules should be more about the feeling than it is about the actual gameplay. Does it feel like the way Red Hulk is in the table or Wolverine is in the table or whatever? And for the most part, that's why
they do a good job.
That's why why we enjoy it, is because typically that's why it does. Mm-hmm. And then people do unintended consequences of like combinations of things that don't really go together that go against the background of the game.
Okoye bodyguarding for Magneto as a way.
Correct. So that was mine for the Asmodee thing. Is I think we'll see a Crisis Protocol 2-player starter set based on the Thunderbolts and that rebrand. Do you think we see something else happen for War Machine? I think this War Machine 2-player starter set's going to be such a flop. I think they're going to try again.
You think so, eh?
Yep.
I don't know how much of a flop it was. I don't know. It seems like people bought it up. I don't know. Like, I don't know how much like they even made of it. Like, that's the question.
I don't know either.
Like, it's like
how many War Machine players you got in your store?
Well, I mean, that's we're probably not the place to ask that question. But I did have one. So out of like all the hobby store owners I own the area, and I know quite a few of them.
Yep.
I know one that kind of brought some stuff in.
Okay.
And it did okay. Yeah.
Cool. Like, okay. So if it didn't break into any new markets.
Not really, no.
I think they try and break into new markets. I think that's the only way they get their monies back. is they gotta make something that can sit by itself. What they need to make is a box that can sit in any store that doesn't have paints on the wall, that doesn't have hobby supplies in it, and you have what you need to play. Everyone keeps making this argument to me that like War Machine, it's fine. You didn't need the rules or the measuring stick or the tokens or the dice because everybody's got that stuff at home already. That doesn't create a new customer base. They need a new customer base. I think they try again. They'll do it like the Guild Ball box. Fucking Steamforged knows how to make a starter set.
They do.
They absolutely do. The Guild Ball 2-player starter set had everything you needed to play in it. They could absolutely do that. This feels like it got rushed out.
I think it did.
I think it did too.
They bought a company. They had something to prove. They had to do something really fast.
They had to raise some capital.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think the stuff they left out is the stuff that takes a while, right?
That's right.
Printed materials.
Stuff that something that comes from China that you're having made for the lowest possible dollar.
Exactly.
Like this got rushed out and that's why that stuff wasn't in there. And I think next year they try again with another starter set. They'll call it a premium starter set or a something. So they'll give it some name.
I mean, like it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world if that's the way that they release their plastics.
I hope they do.
I hope they do. I hope they release all their plastics that way.
Yeah.
Just put them in cool box sets with,
Make me a cool thematic story-driven one.
How long has Infinity been doing that for?
Ever.
Like every summer you have a new starter set, right? Yeah. So it's cool. I like that format.
Okay. My last question is, what do you think BattleTech comes out with this year?
All the ground asset stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because they kickstarted it.
I know.
And now I think they're following that up, I think.
Well, they've also announced their solo play. Aces, BattleTech Aces.
That's really.
And there's a funny story behind that I'll talk about.
Oh yeah.
During garbage time.
Patron only. Patron boys.
None of the dirt.
You're missing out. You're missing out.
We'll see. We'll see after the crowdfund. Maybe I'll talk about it in garbage.
But I think they've got a lot of rope there. I think with all that stuff, there's a ton of stuff they can explore. And the people, I don't know. I don't ever play BattleTech. It's never been my thing, but like
it's on your shelf.
I really appreciate what it is. And the people that like it really like it. And they buy it. Like they don't seem super focused on, this is one thing that I really appreciate about
marketing.
Like they don't seem really focused on the customers. I mean, like don't seem really focused on how powerful things are or what. And they just seem to like to collect stuff and like play with it. Like it's just generally like
that's what happens when you have 40 years of video games and story and books and stuff.
Like I'm not seeing BattleTech tournaments since, I think there's none of that stuff happening. Like anytime I see an event, it's like, oh, let's do this like narrative thing and like a whole bunch of stuff's happening.
It's a ridiculous premise, right? Yeah. It's a bunch of guys in walking robot suits fighting each other. So of course you're going to be focused on what the outcome is. Even the gameplay of classic BattleTech, the fun isn't like the active person basically makes one dice roll, and then the reactive person might make like 10 to see where it all lands. It's the crackerjack of the outcome. It's the unknown process of revealing what happened. That simulation part of it. That's the fun. So like I think the narrative part's baked in.
Yeah.
Right. There's no need to know apart from your desire to know all the fine detail. If you got hit in the left gyro of the leg and it got through your Pharaoh whatever armor.
The fact that they're putting out a solo game tells me they know where the market's going to a degree.
I
think they're very, yeah.
I think they know that they need to lean into the story part of it, right? And that's telling a compelling story is what's kept them afloat all these years with their books and stuff like that, their tech manuals and all that weird Star Trek, ship layout stuff that they do. Last question, and then we're gonna round this up. Do you think Trench Crusade is gonna make a 2-player starter set and try and become a retail presence? What's the over-under on that? What's the over-under on Trench Crusade releasing a retail pledge, doing a whole other Kickstarter to try and get it into a store?
I think they're going to try at some point.
Do you really?
I think they're going to try.
In 2025? Yeah.
Maybe not 2025.
The delivery is so fast for them because they're just doing digital.
2025 might be too early, but like I think they're going to try, and the reason I think it's not for the best reasons. Like I think that the success of it almost like makes it like there's a pressure to do something like that.
I think there absolutely is.
Which is like that's almost too bad because I'm like
it could just be a thing.
You could just enjoy it for what it was. Like you guys like it. I use this analogy with them. It's like this really cool. We all used to play in bands, and it's like this leftovers vibe. Like they're all, and then they're like, oh, let's make a super group because we can. We don't need to make money anymore because we all did that thing, and it had that really cool. Like we're gonna just make new music because we want to, and they did something and people really liked it, and that's really cool. But I think that they're going to feel a little bit of that pressure to make it last. And I don't know if that's the right thing. I don't know. We'll see though.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm wrong.
Maybe. I just want to know if you think it would happen or not this year.
I think they're going to try. I don't know if it'll be this year, but it could be late this year.
Maybe
because
they ran it like this year.
What my theory is they don't do it themselves.
They farm it out.
I think like you look at like a Steamforged Games and say like this is a company that has a proven track record of making.
We don't want to make this infrastructure. We just want to make things. They're going to look for a publisher. You think they'll look for a publisher and have the publisher
Absolutely.
do it?
They have a line in with distributors.
Yep.
If they put their logo on it, they will take it.
It's free money for the creators. That is the smartest way to do it. Yeah. And if they do it, they should do it that way.
Absolutely.
They should do it through a Mantic or a Steamforged or somebody or a Blackslate studio if they're feeling saucy and want to get somewhere in the States to do it.
Sure. Yeah.
And have someone with some on the ground infrastructure. Oh man, we're done. We hit the 30-minute.
You don't want to be your own, like you don't want to have to do anything really. I think those guys,
no,
like, they just want to create.
But that's not their skill set. That's not their skill set. They want to be creatives.
That's where people like I think mess up.
And it falls apart.
Try to be everything.
Try and be a company too. Yeah, exactly. Just be the creatives that you can be. Sweet. Well, there we go. 2025 all laid out. There's our roadmap for 2025.
We killed it. We even brought Trench Crusade in. Can you believe that?
You got to get the SEL in, baby.
We're good.
We're so good. It always comes full circle back to Trench Crusade. Well, let's plug some pluggies for you. Where can people find you online?
You can find us at our YouTube channel, Lords War Games and Hobbies, where we do a lot of stuff like this, but it's more
current events.
A couple sitting together, looking the same direction, looking at each other, looking back,
drinking coffee,
being silly, in a store where the phone rings all the time.
That's right, Walter and Stadorf.
And we have a Patreon we started where you can support us, and the kind of idea behind that is just give us more of a reason to like make this stuff and put more time into it, because like there's always this push pull because we're running a business. That's where our energy and focus has to go. But the more people like support the Patreon, the more we're like, okay, we have to make more videos for people. We have to care about this. We have to do this. So
I think it gets you thinking too during your week about things that you might not normally be thinking about, which is great. Because like otherwise your Patreon started off your YouTube channel started off as basically a scene from Clerks. Like literally, it's just the two of you. It's one of you in front, like two of you next to each other in front of the camera, talking about the fucking contractors who built the Death Star. That's literally what it was.
No, like it's not wrong.
It's a Kevin Smith. Like, I think that's why people like it. You should film it in black and white because then it would just literally be Clerks. Or we should do a skit basically where it's Clerks and it's just the two of you behind the counter talking about contractors in the Death Star, because that's what Lords of War basically YouTube channel feels like to me personally.
Hey.
Is the real talk that happens inside a game store about the shit that nobody cares about except for people that work in this industry. You can also check out my stuff at Guerrilla Miniature Games Patreon. So it's patreon.com/Guerrilla Miniature Games, where you get more of this. This was recorded in 4 parts live with a studio audience. So with the Patrons, we hang out with them after the recording and do some garbage time, take questions from the chat. And generally it's a lot more interactive, but they'll have seen this like a month and a half ago, basically.
And Ash spends a ton of money as Patreon money on like microphones and camcorders. And trust me, I've seen it all. You're actually getting something for your money.
You're getting something for your money?
Like actually,
not two guys in front of Jay's like DSLR.
Hey, no one needs to know that. It's a green screen. It's not real. It's all a production.
Screen. It's just a Zoom background that you guys keep firing in. Yeah, when they figure out this is a workshop psyop to spread misinformation, it's going to be your Patreon's going to rebel. Well, that's it. Thank you for listening to our 2025 predictions. We'll check them off as they come true. You guys can build the GMG bingo card /Lords of War bingo card and keep us honest all year long. And yeah, thanks for doing this, man.
Take care.
Bye, everybody.
Well done.